So I believe that we should have most of the attendees that we're planning to attend. And so we'll go ahead and we'll get started. I want to welcome everyone. We noted that we had registrations from really across the globe. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good tomorrow morning in some cases. I want to thank you for joining today's session entitled, Is My Problem a Big Data Problem? I'll have you know that I did practice this presentation briefly this morning with my 3.5-year-old daughter. Her review is the first one in. Daddy, it's boring. Even with that really rough initial critic, we're still very hopeful that each of you will draw something valuable from this exploration of big data and the exciting opportunities it presents for businesses, universities, governments, and our general ability to peek a little further into the future. My name is Ryan Madsen. I am the Senior Director over Marketing at Bodhtree Solutions, and I will be hosting the webinar. Please note that this presentation is being recorded. Early next week, we will send you a link where you can review or forward the presentation if you have a colleague or executive at your company who is looking to learn more about big data. As we move to the agenda here, I just want to highlight a couple of items. First of all, you'll note that we do have Q&A for about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the presentation. We'd like you to submit your questions through the chat interface. And if you're addressing a question to a specific presenter, please note that person's name along with the question. Or in those cases, we can simply assign the question to whoever we feel is most appropriate for the topic. Also, we might suggest that you hold your questions until the second half in case additional relevant information is covered in later slides. We'll try to answer all of the questions submitted. If there's anything we're not able to get to, we will ask the presenter to follow up directly with you by email to answer your question after the webinar. If you have any technical or audio issues, please also drop a note through the chat line. We'll do whatever we can to address those at the time. In any case, the recorded version of the presentation will be provided shortly afterward. Let me introduce our speakers for today. Presenting first will be Sumit Mitra, who is a big data architect with Bodhtree. His portion of the presentation will focus on the process of determining whether a big data platform is the right fit for your situation and how to initiate the implementation process. We're also very excited to have Paul Batal, who is over supply chain management at Cisco Systems. Paul will discuss the big data business case from the first-hand perspective of management. Before I turn the time over to our presenters, I would like to briefly introduce our sponsor, Bodhtree. Bodhtree has specialized in analytics solutions for approximately 10 years. We consult with clients to assess business objectives and create roadmaps to align analytics solutions with measurable business value. We have approximately 700 software engineers and data scientists, many of whom are certified in analytics and big data technologies. This next slide highlights how Bodhtree services can assist at all phases of analytics and big data initiatives. Beyond the obvious areas like implementation, business alignment, and reporting, Bodhtree also brings tools for data cleansing and governance along with accelerators with specific industry KPIs. While Bodhtree is not tied to any specific technologies, we do bring several partnerships that add value for our customers. This slide highlights a few of those partnerships, such as Informatica, SAP Business Objects, and Oracle. I'm sorry, let me. Just one moment. Okay. Here are those strategic partnerships, including, like I mentioned, SAP Business Objects, Oracle, and Informatica. Finally, this slide gives a better view of the breadth of Bodhtree's technology expertise, emphasizing our focus on advising the technology course that makes the most sense for your organization. As your company reviews their business goals and considers analytics or big data solutions, we encourage you to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you put together a path forward that addresses your unique technical and business situation. With that, I would like to now turn the time over to Sumit Mitra. And he's going to, as I mentioned, present to us the core of the presentation about how we can diagnose big data problems. Go ahead, Sumit.
Thank you, Ryan. Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome to the webinar. Here's a quick overview of the next 15-odd minutes. We'll start with a few examples of big data and analytics in day-to-day life, and we'll look at the definition of big data. we'll see how we can identify if we have a big data problem lurking around the corner. Next, we'll look at Hadoop, the predominant big data platform today. Finally, we'll see how we can possibly get started with a big data implementation. To start off with, let's see some of the things all of us have been surprised or happy to see in our day-to-day lives. These things have come to fore only in the past few years. They directly or indirectly use cutting-edge analytics and big data. Facebook, the flag bearer of social media, seems to be able to connect us with long-lost friends. Amazon, the foremost online retailing company, has a knack of predicting what we want for the holidays. Our smartphones can tell us what's a better road to pick given the current and expected traffic conditions. Our banks seem to be able to identify real versus fraud transactions before we realize we have lost our wallet. I myself have seen this happen. Years of data collection and analysis has led to an increasingly accurate hurricane prediction and intensity prediction. This saved lives by providing precious extra minutes for evacuations. What we probably never pause to think about is that each of these services behind the scenes use a lot of raw numbers to get to these results. And key to all of it is the ability to store and crunch large amounts of data. Moving to the crux of our discussion today. What is big data? If we search the internet, we'll find various definitions for big data. I have picked two from two ends of the spectrum. On one side, Gartner says it's a term adopted by the market to describe extreme information management and processing issues. These issues are all the more evident because traditional information technology is simply unable to cope up with them. In simpler terms, big data is essentially a collection of data sets so large and complex that it becomes difficult to capture, store, search, analyze, or visualize the data set. According to a recent estimate by IBM, every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. This rate of data is so fast that 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years alone. This data comes from everywhere. Sensors used for gathering climate information, posts on social media, digital pictures, video, online purchase transaction records, cell phone GPS records. These are just to name a few of the sources. This is big data. Now let's look at what characterizes big data. In the early days, they were referred to as the 3 V's: volume, variety, and velocity. With the introduction of big data into enterprise, the veracity of data has become a key challenge as well. Let's look at these terms one by one. Volume. Enterprises are dealing with ever-growing data of all types. These, if they want, they can easily amass terabytes of data and information. Say for example, today we have an Apple product launch. To gauge the exact reaction of people to the new features, just Twitter is likely to churn around 12 terabytes of tweets. Imagine analyzing that volume for the product launches sentiment analysis, just to get an idea of what people think about the product launch. That is volume for you. Next, variety. Big data implies multiple types of data. Structured data, such as those coming from traditional ERP systems. Semi-structured data, such as text, sensor data, click streams, log files. And unstructured data, such as audio and video, and some others. New insights can be found when we analyze all these data types together. Separately, they are different silos, but if we analyze them together, a whole new world of information opens up. Thus, variety becomes a big data challenge as well. Next comes velocity. If we step back at the fraud detection example, sometimes 2 minutes is too late. For time-sensitive processes like catching the fraudulent credit card transaction, the transaction data must be used in conjunction with big data as it is coming into your enterprise. Otherwise, you have missed the transaction, and that is going to go into the loss side for your business. Finally, veracity of data. 1 in 3 business leaders don't trust the information they use to make decisions. How can you act upon information if you don't trust it? Establishing trust in big data presents a huge challenge as the variety and the number of sources grow. All this talk about the characteristics of big data is fine. How can we identify if we have a big data problem amongst us? Let's try to answer a few simple questions and see. Do you have multiple systems working in silos? Let's take, for example, a product company that has a product refresh cycle of 4 to 6 months. Here, departmental data marts roll up into departmental warehouses, each catering to reports in their own domain. However, oftentimes, these data marts are not talking to each other. So now you have silos of data, where maybe the engineering department is not talking to customer management, which in turn is not talking to operations. There is a chance now that crucial customer feedback, which is probably in the customer management bucket, is not getting through to engineering, and possible product improvements are getting delayed. This is the time to merge the silos, and you are probably going to end up with a big data solution. Next, ask yourself, do you have data volumes so high that it takes days or weeks to run reports and analytics? Take the above scenario now, and imagine you need to collect operation data with CRM data. With the warehouses sitting in silos, that would probably have to be done manually, or at least through semi-automated techniques. This means critical data is not being available as fast as possible. Here is a need to streamline and merge the data analysis, keeping the volume in mind. Question 3. Do you have multi-structured data that needs to be shoehorned into traditionally structured data stores? What is that supposed to mean? We just saw the variety of data that's available. And today you might not even be storing all the data. For example, maybe you're ignoring user sensor data or user click information, or not looking at the social media stream for product reactions. But if you were to capture each of these streams, and if you were to take your traditional database system today, not only will storing that information be cost prohibitive, it's quickly going to become a technical bottleneck for you. So it will be difficult to even start saving of this multi-structured data. Next question. Are you discarding historical data? It could be due to cost of maintaining and analyzing the historical information. It could be that your system is not able to function at its peak if you continue to have data more than a certain number of days. If you are archiving historical data due to limitations of your IT systems, you are losing out on valuable data that can be used for further analysis. This segues into the next question. Do you have complex analysis to do, for example, pattern recognition or behavioral analysis? The math behind these techniques are old. They have been in existence for a very long time. The challenge is providing good data. We are always faced with the challenge of providing good data to these algorithms. Imagine instead of having to pick a sample of good data, if you are able to provide the algorithms, the entire set of data available. That would mean that your models that are coming out of the analytics that you're running, they are precise. The more data you provide, the more precise models you get. So these 5 questions, if you have answered yes to more than one of them, they are a good indicator that you're heading for a big data problem, or you already have a big data problem at hand. Before we go into an implementation, let's look at Hadoop, the predominant big data platform today. Hadoop is an open source Apache project that was sponsored by Yahoo from shortly after conception. It went live in around January 2008 when it became a top-level Apache project. It is based on Google's papers on Google File System and the MapReduce technique. Google perfected this while they were building their own search engine, and then they later came out with white papers based on which Hadoop was built. The biggest selling point of Hadoop is that it's a distributed computing and storage platform that works on commodity hardware. Don't confuse commodity with cheap. Commodity means hardware you can buy off the shelf, not something like a Cray supercomputer that you have to get government permission to put in your data center, or something so proprietary like appliances that are available only from specific vendors. So Hadoop works on commodity hardware, good quality hardware. They may cost money, but they are available off the shelf. You are free to mix and match. Being a distributed computing platform, Hadoop scales horizontally. What does that mean? It means it grows in storage and computation power as you add more hardware to it. So if you're starting fresh, you can start with a small set of server hardware. And as your data and computation needs grow, you can incrementally add hardware to your entire Hadoop cluster. Hadoop then neatly takes this new hardware in its fold and starts utilizing the additional computation and storage capacity. So the way Hadoop solves the problem of scaling is by simply adding more hardware. Hadoop also has replication and fault tolerance built in, as a result of which it can recover from data corruption, partial hardware failures very elegantly. Unless there is a catastrophic hardware failure, you are guaranteed never to lose data, and your analytics process to continue even if there is data corruption at one level. Data in Hadoop is compressed by default. It gives you very good return on investment for the hardware that you're using. That brings us to the Hadoop ecosystem. What does it provide us? Apart from the core Hadoop platform, which is open source and has been around for the past 5 years, Hadoop's ecosystem has grown very rapidly. Since it's an open source stack, it has fostered a growing community that has built tools to help analyze the data at a much higher level than the raw MapReduce framework. So MapReduce framework can be considered as the assembly language, but nowadays you have tools that work at a much higher abstraction. So some of these tools now ship with built-in statistical algorithms. Apart from Hadoop today essentially has the entire chain of tooling available, where you can get data into Hadoop, process the data in Hadoop, and then take the data from Hadoop to either a reporting system directly or into your existing enterprise warehouse very easily. So this entire tooling exists. So Hadoop as an ecosystem, as a platform, is ready for enterprise-grade big data solutions. Let's quickly move on to the next slide. Next. Coming to the big data. Yeah. Thanks. Coming to the big data implementation, we have a list of to-dos and suggestions. To start off with, identify a business problem. Remember, big data is a business problem. It's not an IT challenge. It's not a technical challenge. Think of a pointed business case. For example, let's say you're trying to evaluate dollars spent on a marketing campaign. To do this analysis, you probably need to track the number of times the ad was shown versus the number of clicks that happened on the ad versus the number of registrations that happened for that click. So information will come from various sources like ERP, CRM, social media, and so on to evaluate your campaign reactions. So build a business case like this where you can do a back of the envelope calculation and provide an ROI upfront, saying that if we were to do this, if we were to analyze this information using our big data solution, this would be the ROI. Once you have the business case in place, identify IT challenges that you may have, identify the gap in skill sets available. Today, if your IT is dealing with complex analytics and ready to use packages like SAS and SPSS and MicroStrategy to do high-level analytics, you are in a good place. Think of training them to the next level for big data. If not, if you're only dealing with canned reports, think towards bringing in or either as a hire or a subcontract position to help the team grow as the prototype progresses. Finally, our recommendation is get a data engineer to augment your existing BI team, somebody who has been there, done that before. Once the IT challenges have been met, move on towards finalizing the proof of concept. As I said, Hadoop is an open source stack. You don't have an upfront software cost for it. And we recommend that if hardware acquisition is a bottleneck, consider using the cloud. Amazon's cloud infrastructure works very well with Hadoop. Do your POC on the cloud. Look at the ROI. Validate your team's understanding of big data itself, as well as all the IT challenges that you had to face. Show business the value that you're getting. With that, move on to the next step, wherein you can either expand on the cloud infrastructure or bring your cluster in your own data center. Once you have completed the POC, you will have enough confidence in-house as well as with business to be able to move forward to take up more complex problems. You will be well on your way to leveraging big data for your business. With that, I'll pass the ball to Paul, and we'll take questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. Paul, if I could hop in for just 1 second. We did have, it looks like one attendee mentioned a little bit of an audio issue. If anybody else is having an audio issue, please do send a note, and we will, if a couple of people are having that, we'll look at that situation. Thank you. Go ahead, Paul. Thank you.
And thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Ryan. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to touch base first with some little bit of the background, how the private and public sector is increasingly realized today that they need to have effectively engage with their extended enterprise in order to thrive in rich era of engagement. This is because relationships are rebounding as the new competitive playing fields. We see a number of trends that reinforce increasing dependencies and enabling the extended enterprise to cope with the change. At first, when we look at it, these trends may not seem like anything new, but when you look at it differently is that the technology is now available that lets the organization deal with these kind of trends in a new way. But the organizations are still facing the same pressure of innovate, to respond to the changing demands and meet the expectations. Consumers, employees, and partners have come to expect the same kind of on-demand and authentic experience from the business world that they have come to expect in their personal lives. Technology is making it possible to create deep-rooted relationships on a broad scale. And so as the markets have shifted into the higher gear, product development cycles have shrunk dramatically, and the market uncertainties cloud our decisions. Organizations are pressured to deliver the new ideas, to have it better and faster than ever before. Technology allows organizations to leverage their ecosystems to anticipate quickly rise to meet the new market changes, minimizing the risk along the way. But at the same time, the latest innovations enabling this new age experience can come from anyone, anywhere, at any time. Organizations are investing in borderless networks to reach the significant gains in scale, speed, and the cost innovation. At the same time, we are facing also the financial pressures where everybody has been tasked to do more with less. It doesn't matter if it's a public sector or it's a private sector. It's all the same. So the organizations are turning towards the technology to enhance and extend the services where they can do more with less. But now, the technology is now at a point where it can help organizations face these many challenges in a new way. Big data is one of the biggest examples which we are discussing today. Next slide. So the global way the companies to be successful to find new ways of engaging with their constituencies is the use of the technology and share the data, which allows them to be innovative together to create products, services, meaningful experience that creates a sustainable business advantage. The network platform is bringing people together, and the video, the disruptive technology enabling more human connections. The integration of rich collaboration technologies, borderless networks, virtualized applications, and services allow people to participate in any workplace environment. Anyone can participate in anything, anywhere, across any channel, using any device, making impossible plausible. But this is generating so much of the data. Depends on how we are using that data, or are we throwing that data away? Are we using that data to do some kind of analysis to make our business much more stronger? Let's look at the things which the big data does. So there's different type of data is generated by all the things today, and there's a video-based data, it's an image, audio, text, numbers, all different kind of data is coming in. What is the big data does is creates a transparency into that data, enables the experimentation of to discover the need, expose the variability, and improve the performance. Segmenting the populations to customized actions where folks can take the actions based on what the data is telling them. And basically it helps replace these coding human decisions making with the automated algorithms in a business, which basically has to innovate new business models, products, and services. Next slide. So the amount of data in our world has been exploding. Companies capturing trillions bytes of the data, information from customers, suppliers, and operations. The transformative potential of the big data is measured in 5 domains. One is the healthcare, public sector, retail, manufacturing, and personal location data. The big data potential in value chain has significant effect in some of the major areas, which I am more focused on the big data standpoint, more of a value chain and into a supply chain. How does the big data help in that sector? So the things which major areas which affect in the value chain is the product design, supply chain, production, and marketing. Looking at from the product design standpoint, big data can help the customers to inputs on the features during the design phase. It gives enough collaboration that the feedback which is coming from the customers is going back to your design team, and design team can basically implement those features while they're designing the new products and minimize the production cost and reduce basically development cost as an open innovation and develop products that address the needs of the customers. And it helps in inviting the external stakeholders to submit their ideas and innovate more on be collaborative on these products. From supply chain, it basically helps the supply chain on improving of the demand forecasting and supply chain planning. And from the production, big data basically drives the additional efficiencies in production process with applications which allows the manufacturers to use the real-time data from different sensors to track parts, monitor machinery, and guide actual operations. Marketing, sales, and support, getting the data for marketing, sales, and support is actual product usage, performance, then creating a real-time input for the utilization and the usage patterns. What it does is basically takes the data from the field and guides what kind of service the customer will be needing. This is based on how the customer is using that data and that product of yours in the marketplace. So getting that real-time feedback from a customer and then from there generating what kind of service the customer will be needing and guiding the customer to the right service at the right time, at the right place, data helps you get to that level. Now looking at how the demand volatility of the demand has been critical for past many ages, and on the other hand, the customers are pushing hard for flexibility and responsiveness. Basically, the companies can improve own demand forecasting and supply planning by improved use of their own data. But it will be a lot more valuable when the companies are able to integrate the data from the other sources, including retailers, distributors, such as promotion data, price sales data, items, launch date, inventory data across the value chain. Because what it does is helps to generate an actual demand, understanding and predicting what the customer demand is to avoid any stock outs, maintain adequate inventory levels, while the forecast is never perfect. It's necessary to prepare ourselves to the actual demand in order to maintain and optimize inventory and effective supply chain. Accurate demand forecasts are imperative. And also looking at this data into by a different segmentation, you can look at it, okay, how my geographies are doing, what do I need to do, where do I need to focus by segmenting that data by geographies, segmenting that data by your customers, segmenting that data by your products, so you can utilize the data in a different ways to increase your business revenues. Can you stay on the same slide? Yes, thank you. And looking at from the supply planning side, how do I balance my supply into my demand, and looking at it, my access, my purchase price, my inventory metrics, material availability, prioritization, all these things. When I'm saying these things, you're thinking, hey, a lot of systems, they do it today. How is it different than today? What we're doing today is looking at the trends backwards, and we think, okay, this is how well we did. This is how we did on the access. This is what we did on the PP. This is looking forward and saying, before even the problem occurs, the data will help you, show you, hey, down the road, you're going to have this problem if you don't change your course. So the data, how you use the data, that is the key. to analyze that data and use to change your course for the future, which basically help you in transitioning from the modeling of the NPI into the production and having the material availability aligned to the sales orders, how your customer is looking at it to fulfilling their orders. Now, on the other side, this is also not only limited to the planning piece of it. There's a big piece in value chain, which is a sourcing piece. We are basically looking at how we can share our supply base at a design phase. Most of the time when you look at the companies, they have a different sourcing team, they have a different design team, and there's very few links in between those teams. So having that data available for the design team up in the front, so when they are designing and putting those components in their design, they need to know which are the critical suppliers who they need to pick, and how they can utilize those things, and how they can have a contract deals made with them up in the front end sourcing, how they can do a multiple sourcing with the multiple suppliers. Having all that data flowing between the different teams is more critical, and the big data is the one which provides you that capability of having that shared data not only within internal teams but also with the external teams, which is your manufacturing partners, which is your suppliers. Having that information coming in, flowing back and forth, which is big data, can do that for you in seconds where it takes weeks and months to do it other than the big data. Now, same thing happens when we are looking at from the costing piece of it, and we are looking at how does my cost fit. That's also the same scenario. It goes in there, that it helps you create different kind of what ifs, where you can look at my product, if using this supplier, this is what my cost of my product is. If I'm using this is what my cost of my product is. So having all that information available for you in seconds instead of waiting for months and days, that is very critical for you to make a decision at the right time, which also helps you basically how you manage your supply base, how you get your commits back from your suppliers. Am I fat in supply on one side? Am I too lean on the other side? Those are the ability to having those conversations with your suppliers, having that data available is much more critical. And basically ability to having translate back to the individual product groups and the business units and your segments and saying, okay, this is how the product, the supply is coming, and this is how we can help with the supply on this demand. So that is more critical on the data piece of it. If you can stay back on that slide for a second. So basically what it does is gives you a what if capability of your full value supply chain in a second instead of doing it days and months of it. Basically where you can look at it, do I need to process my demand associated with my splits? Do I need to model my spend for pricing in different way? Do I need to do my demand analysis with the negotiation within my supply shortages, where I need to look at it, how effective my supply can be against my orders? And then on top of it, how can you measure your supply base ahead of the time than doing it at the end of the quarter? Right. So now it comes that, okay, there's a different ways how we can use the big data in supply chain. Other thing is that what we need to do, what now, if we know that there's a big data can be helped in supply chain. In the past, if you look at it, the big data is not new, it's been out there for years, but a lot of companies, they have used the big data more on the customer side of it, but not on the operation side of it. This is something which each one of you guys have to look at it. Does it really make sense for me to have my big data for my supply chain? How do I put that use case together for my big data? How do I identify the data inputs into my different gaps which I have in my supply chain today? to build that concept, that's where you need a team which is already done this one and already have a knowledge of big data, not just from the architect standpoint, but also from a supply chain standpoint. That's where I think what I have seen is Bodhtree has a lot of talent where they can look into supply chain and help you look into those gaps of the data and put a business case together with you and show you what the business benefits will be there as what operational savings you can get from it. Open for questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Paul, and also thank you, Sumit. Those were excellent presentations and offered some great insights. We have a few questions that have come in, and also if anybody else has additional questions, please submit them through the chat, and we'll also cover those. But let me just ask two different questions we've received. The first one we want to give to Paul, if we could. This question is, how do you measure success in your big data project? You can give some insights on that.
Definitely. So it really depends on where exactly in supply chain you are looking at from the big data standpoint. If you are saying, you know what, my on-time shipment is today at certain percentage, I want to see how big data can help me on my on-time shipments for my customer. So now you're looking from your supply chain standpoint, what are my critical things in my supply chain where I can use the big data, where it can indicate me ahead of the time what the issues I'm going to be facing 13 weeks down the road, or only 6 weeks down the road, what issues I'm going to see in my supply chain. That is where the big data can do that analysis and give you a report showing you, okay, you are having a capacity issue at this line at this time, or you're going to be having these material issues due to these things. So those things you can see way ahead of the time where big data can help you. That is the big operations benefits which it gives you.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. We also had a couple of questions come up kind of around, I think some of the attendees had a little bit of confusion about how big data integrates with BI solutions. And so let me just read one of these questions. Given that we already have an enterprise BI setup, how does a big data solution fit in? Is it a parallel universe, or is it integrated somehow? And if we could ask Sumit, could you take that question?
Sure thing, Ryan. Actually, I had a slide for this, and we have to leave it out due to time constraints. Do we have that slide handy, Ryan?
Is this slide ready?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So if we look at the slide, the area that is highlighted in the middle is what usual enterprise warehouse or enterprise BI solution looks like, comprises of. It comprises of transaction data coming in through traditional data sources, being moved into the BI stack for analysis. If we expand the BI stack, we have staging data, we have operational data store, we have the data warehouse, and then we have multi-dimensional cubes. And of this BI stack, we are doing our operational reporting, strategic analysis, what-if analysis, so on and so forth. Now, once you get big data into the picture, I'd like to recap the V's that we talked about. So to handle the volume piece, you would probably have the black box on the right-hand side. That is going to do your batch processing of high volumes of data. So that would be represented by a Hadoop platform like Apache Hadoop. And also, on the left-hand side, you will see a new block called complex event processing. So this is what handles the velocity V for you. So when data is coming in very fast, you don't depend on Hadoop to give you on-the-fly information. Hadoop is a batch processing system. So you need a system which is referred to as a complex event processor. To refer analysis that Hadoop has already done, and then make a decision based on that analysis whether the data that is coming in is good, bad, ugly, where it should be put, if there are any immediate steps that need to be taken. So, for example, the credit card fraud transaction. So, the complex event processor would refer to a model that is built by BigData, built by Hadoop, but it would take the decision that this transaction, the current transaction looks fraudulent, raise an alert. So detecting that, doing the comparison and raising the alert is what the complex event processor would do. So these are the two pieces that will fit outside your traditional business intelligence box. Now you see there is an overlap. So what the overlap signifies is that once you have data in your big data store in Hadoop, say for example, you have run your analytics. Once the result of the analytics has come out, you push that data back into your enterprise warehouse. Okay, and then that analyzed data is now available for doing your reporting. So you have kind of munged a high volume data that may have come in very fast, okay, that came in different types, different varieties. You have munged all that data, got the analytics piece out, got the relevant results for yourself, and moved it into your traditional warehouse, where you can use it for reporting and strategic analysis. So essentially, you are using Hadoop as your analysis engine to feed into your traditional warehouse. So your big data implementation thus is not a parallel universe. It sits right outside and it interacts with your enterprise business, enterprise data warehouse. I hope that makes things clear.
Excellent. Thank you, Sumit. Let me ask you something that's just a little bit, I think, of a follow-up question. This is something that I think a lot of people face whenever new technology comes out with all of the hype that big data has. Can you give me an example of a situation where a big data solution would not make sense for an enterprise, where you would say, as an advisor to a company, that you need to look elsewhere, you need to look at other analytic solutions, big data is not going to be a fit in this situation? Can you give me an example like that?
Sure. For example, let's say you have a high volume of data, but that data is more or less static. So that volume is static. It's not increasing at a very rapid rate. So you start off with a high volume of data. You need to do complex analytics on it, but the data increment rate is not very high. In such a scenario, you are in a place where you could evaluate systems, appliances like Netezza or appliances from Greenplum, because what these give you is they give you a lot of tools out of the box. They have excellent performance characteristics. Okay, they are tuned as a BI solution already. So do a cost versus benefit analysis and see if you actually need to do a Hadoop implementation, because a Hadoop implementation will bring the entire Hadoop ecosystem in, and you will have to kind of raise your level to utilize it fully. But if you don't need the horizontal scalability, if you think that your data is more or less restricted to a certain volume of data, appliances like these help. They'll help you get off the ground faster because they come with a lot of tools built in, straight out of the box that you can apply to your problem directly. You don't have to do research. You don't have to maybe write low-level code to get to your final result, which you may have to do in case of using a Hadoop-based platform. The difference is kind of fading, but still you have a little more upfront work when you're using a Hadoop-based platform than when you're using a appliance coming from one of the high-end vendors.
Excellent. Thank you, Sumit. One final question, and I actually wanted to ask this to Paul, if you could help me on this. Somebody asked something like this, and I'm rephrasing it just a bit. If you are going to an influencer or an executive in your company to make the business case for Hadoop, and if you had to do that, we really only got about a minute for this question. And so if you have to make that case in a minute, what are like the say the 3 key points that you would highlight in making that business case?
It's a tough question. In a minute, what are the key points? So the first thing is customer satisfaction is the one thing which the big data can help with, and then there's a supply chain, more of the predictiveness of the supply chain betterness, so we can help with that. And then the last thing is the cost avoidance is the other thing which basically big data can help.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. That was a great answer. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're just getting close to the bottom of the hour. And just again, I want to remind everybody that we will provide the link to this webinar by email. Please feel forward to forward that on to whoever might be interested in this topic and might benefit from more insight to the opportunities inherent in big data. I also want to highlight just a couple of the upcoming events that we have with Bodhtree. First of all, we will be doing I'm sorry, this was actually retitled here, but it'll be actually an analytics meetup here in the Silicon Valley on October 17th, 2012. Additionally, we'll be having another webinar on November 14th entitled "How Orbitz Uses Hadoop to Unlock Business Value," and that will be presented by Robert Lancaster, who's a data scientist with Orbitz Worldwide. Finally, I want to give a big thank you to both of our presenters, Sumit Maitra and Paul Batal. Thank you for putting the time into preparing this content and for the excellent presentations you provided. And additionally, for our attendees, we hope that you do feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you have, with any issues that you're facing that we might be able to assist with in helping you to map that path forward in big data. You see my email address there at the bottom and phone number. And also you can find us at Bodhtree.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you join us again soon at one of these upcoming events.